And Mark, as
Yeah.
always, he's Brian, Mark 2.0, and we welcome actor, producer, writer Tom Malloy to the Mark 2.0 podcast. Welcome, Tom.
Oh,
Thank
happy to
you
be
so
here.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
sure. Now, what inspired you to become an actor, producer, and writer?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to be an actor from when I was a kid. It's so funny. I was just telling somebody today, I've been doing this since I was like 10 years old, at that point I was playing Captain Hook in the fourth grade production of Peter Pan. Peter Pan was a girl. And speaking in front of crowds since then. But when it was like, I mean, there was a movie I did in 98 called Gravesend, and it got some pop. We got Oliver Stone to put his name on it. It was like an improvised movie. It was my first movie. And because of that pop, like I'm getting these big auditions, but I was losing them out to like established stars. And I
Hmm.
just didn't want to go into the whole waiter bartender thing. I just wanted to kind of make my own way. And I just learned every other aspect of the business. And initially, it was just a way to get myself other roles, write good roles for myself, good supporting roles, have bigger stars around me. But then I just started getting good at it. And so now I just produced my 22nd film in February. So yeah. Sorry, let me close my
That's really cool, Mark. It just dawned on me. We actually talked to a lot of people, and some of them just take that educational way strictly, but some people just want to learn everything, like Tom here. We made a lot of friends doing this, and it's like people like you are just like few and far apart that really want to be involved in every single thing, and they're just like, whatever you got, just let me get in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like when I remember when I started, it was like, early 2000s, say 2003, 2004. I mean, started doing every other aspect and learning this stuff. I remember going up to an agent that I had at the time, and I said, I want to be an actor, writer, producer. And she said, you can't do that. You got to focus on one thing. And I always joke that like I just did it anyway, and I joke now that same agent, if she's still around, guaranteed a client would come in and say, I just want to be an actor. And they'd be like, you can't just focus on one thing. You got to do all these other things. So it completely is flipped. So I kind of was doing that before. Now it's like, it's what you have to do, and it was just kind of finding my own path. But now that is the path. Everybody's got to create their own content, it seems.
Another excellent point. You're sitting there talking, and it's formulating in my mind that is what you have to do now. Things
Yeah.
are so different now. People who did that then were trailblazers. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so
thanks.
kudos to you, definitely. So, where'd you grow up, by the way?
I grew up in Jersey, and I was born and raised in Jersey. I was born in Red Bank, and then grew up in like Hunterdon County. Went to school in Montclair University, and then the first place I moved after college was New York City. And so the East Coast guy, but then I moved to Los Angeles like 2008, and fell in love with that city. My favorite city.
Did you devote your college time to this thing, or something else?
Well, I mean, it was like 95 to 98. And so I was going to school in Montclair, and it was outside New York City. And then that's when got this movie Gravesend, I think started filming in 96. And I would go to school all day and then go to Brooklyn, and we'd film all night. These crazy, I mean, stories. We'd go up to street corners, and there'd be a gang of thugs, and we'd like, it'd be like, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? They'd be like, yeah, all right, big fights would break out.
Nice.
And and then I'd go back to college the next day, like just people thought I was partying all night, but I was just working on this movie. And so that was just for me, it was just the initial dedication of not refusing to give up, because that movie was kind of like a John Cassavetes like marathon event to try to get through. But then again, when it was done, Oliver Stone put his name on it. It was in theaters. I was the second biggest role. And I do have a funny quick story, is that my son's watched like most of my movies that I've done and been in, and he went back and saw Gravesend, and he said that was his favorite of all of them. It's just very funny.
Oh,
And obviously done much
nice.
bigger movies, but that was like a
Yeah.
straight like raw film. So yeah.
Seriously, that is cool. So your parents must have been amazing people. Where were they born? I mean, were they Jersey people? New York?
No, they were in New York City. My dad in Manhattan, and grew up in the Bronx, and my mom in Syracuse. So they were New
Mm.
York people. And then she lived in Manhattan a lot of her life. And but yeah, I mean, he was a funny guy, and she was a singer, but they didn't have the kind of obsession maybe that I did to never give up, and I think that was great. So, but they were always supportive of me, so it's tough to kind of go the extra mile to say, no matter what's going to happen, I'm just going to keep at it. And then I just had that, I guess, so.
Well, maybe double support is what it takes these days. It's not easy world, I mean, bless anyone who tries and has to give up, especially for their kid. It's a good reason to give up, so you got to put meat on the table.
It's like I've said to people before, it's like we all have the same 24 hours in a day, because it's like time is a factor. And so many people be like, I'll be like, why didn't you write that screenplay? And they'll be like, I don't have the time. But I will say that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And if you want it bad enough, you will wake up a half hour earlier and do so, before the kid wakes up, or you'll stay up a half hour later, and then just dedicate even just that little time every day to doing something to push your career forward. It could ultimately pay huge dividends in the long run.
Absolutely. A great life lesson. Something that I wish I had learned earlier in life.
Exactly.
One of the great things of the movie business is that it's not really time sensitive. I mean, it really any of it. I mean, it's like you don't have to be, because even if you're an actor, you can be 80 years old and be like, I'm going to be an actor. There are roles for 80-year-old people, that they need those roles filled. So it's the same with the writing and producing. So it's a really cool business that I don't think it's ageist as a lot of other businesses are.
We have met the coolest older guys. You would love some of the guys we met. Well, you met a lot of. Well, you were already talking about Oliver Stone. Who else did you work with?
Oh, it's like, so for me, it's fun to say that people that, like, I know some big celebrity people that, that are friends, and then I've worked in movies, and those, it's funny. I'm usually a little bit more competitive with those people and more and less in awe. And the ones that were the older people that I just love, two come to mind that I enjoyed working with and became friends with was Larry Hankin, who, if you look him up, he's been in 200 movies, and so like those are the guys that I love that's been in every movie ever.
Oh yeah.
And Ray Wise is another one that he played my dad in a film. But so Ray Wise from Twin Peaks, and as soon as you see him, these are guys that you look up and you go, oh man, like those. So the key is, and Catherine Mary Stewart did another person. I think we've done 5 movies together, and those people like that I just love every time they're working. And the ones that are the bigger celebrities, the ones that I've worked with that are big stars, I'm usually more like, let's bring it, let's see who's better.
Like the Betty Whites.
Yeah, well, no, and of course Betty. Oh my God, well, that's different. I forgot her. Yes, she's incredible, and she was another one that I'd pick that over working with Tom Cruise.
How are you able to get those in your? Those were your movies that they were in, right? Betty White and Joyce DeWitt. How are you able to book them? Was that you? Or
I forget about Joyce DeWitt too. It's been a lot of people. I mean, it's like Love and Dancing had Billy Zane and Amy Smart and Rachel Dratch from SNL and Caroline Rhea and Betty White. And it's like, and then but other films like Alphabet Killer had but Tim Hutton and Carrie Elways, Elijah Dushku and Michael Ironside and Martin Donovan, like Melissa Leo and all these people. So the key is, how is the question is 2 things. Is one is great scripts, like scripts that have really good characters that everybody loves. And the second thing would be good directors. That they want the actor goes, oh, that director's going to make me look good. So I think those are 2 things that really come down to it. But I mean, I always say that actors want to work. Doesn't matter how big they are. They want good scripts and they want to work. They want to do projects that are exciting to them. So
that's a great point. Yeah. What about Hero of the Otherworld? I wanted to talk about that. You won multiple awards for that. What was it like playing that role?
It was really cool. We did that as a smaller film. And what was cool is that I had years ago, turn of the century, I was the overnight manager for the Paramount Hotel in New York City. Like it was a job that I kind of fell into, thinking some craziness that I could work all night so it would free me up during the day for auditions. But all it made me ridiculously tired all the time, and I just couldn't. I was just kind of walking zombie. And that only lasted for a couple months. But it was such a hot hotel right in Times Square, and there was so much going on. And I remember seeing a filmmaker friend down by this place called Film Video Arts that was a huge, really cool mecca in New York City, where all young filmmakers used to go. Darren Aronofsky, like all these people used to be there and hang out. It was state funded or something. And this one guy used to work there, and he was a filmmaker, and I told him how much hell it was. He goes, no, but you get good stories. And so I took one story that happened there and just kind of made it into a film. And so, I was able to kind of bring it into a little world there. So thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you played it really well because I've worked overnights before. I once worked as a manager at Walgreens in Burbank, California, and it's grueling. It really is. You know what I mean? You played it perfectly. And Catherine was in a scene in there too.
Was
Talk about that scene.
about
Yeah.
Kathy, and I love her, and she's so great. And Weekend at Bernie's, and the first movie we did was called The Attic, which was me and her and Elizabeth Moss and Alexander Daddario. I think that was her first movie, and John Savage. And so Kathy in that movie, I'm not sure if she'd also done Love and Dancing with me, played roles here. So I was always putting her name because I just thought she's so great. And in that, I sent it to her, and she wrote back like an email like right away, or called me, I don't remember, but either way she was like, I'm in. And she said, I get to say fuck in a movie. She was so happy because it's like, she always was getting these hallmarky like delightful roles, and she was just so happy to play an asshole for once. And so
it was a
so
genius scene. Yeah, it was such a genius scene. You got to explain it to the listeners.
I mean, it's great. It's so I'm enjoying that you're getting this specific about that, but that's super cool. It's really fun but this scene legit happened in real life. That is taken from a night that I was there, and these guys come up and they're like, "Is our room ready?" And some manager that I hated, and that was exactly in there. Like in the film, we did not get along, and he had like booked a room to somebody else, and there was like nothing we could do. And so we had to go in and take this woman's clothes and move her clothes to another room. And she freaking flipped out. I mean, like her hands are shaking and blah, blah, blah. And it was so crazy. And so we had to tell her it was a water leak.
How genius is that? Water.
Yeah. I mean, because then you go from to relieved. And I think it didn't work as well as it worked in the movie. I think she kind of was a little bit appeased, but the key was, for her, that was the mortal sin, was touching her clothes and stuff like that. But we were comping her like the rest of her stay. But a lot of times these people, if you comped her room, they didn't give a shit because their company was paying for it. It's like, oh, comp me room. They don't care. So that was a tough situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's
Gabe Jarret was in there too, from Real Genius.
When the military runs short on brains, they go hunting at Pacific Tech.
Gabe is one of my best friends, and I just saw him 2 nights ago. And one of my best friends, and we've done a lot of films together. And I believe there's a picture up there that we did the first time we worked together was a TV pilot called The Fuzz. That was that you could make an argument that Brooklyn 99 stole our concept and did it, but it's I thought about it for a while because there was some mutual. Gabe was one of the people in there. And but we had the same publicist. That's right. Before even that's how I met him. But I was a fan of Real Genius since I was a kid, and
so was I. Yeah.
This is one of the best movies of the 80s. And
I must have saw it 50 times.
Oh, it's so
throughout
good.
the years.
So
Easy. Every once in a while, I still have to watch it.
Yeah, it's funny is because I recently became friends with Dean Devlin, and he was in Real Genius. And the last time I saw him, I'm like, Gabe is like one of my best friends, and he was like, no way, And so, because Dean Devlin's now gone on to be a huge producer, but he was a supporting role in Real Genius. But anyway, Gabe and I always try to bring him in because he's an actor that was, he was 14 in Real Genius, so he's done it his whole life. So he's a real wild and fun guy outside, and I always enjoy laughing, and he makes me look low energy and quiet, which is super fun. But on set, it's like you got nobody that will hit their mark and get their lines, more perfect because he's been doing it for so long. But he's also like, people think only Real Genius because he was the lead role, but he was also in Frost Nixon and Apollo 13, and I believe he won the SAG Award because SAG Award goes to the whole cast for both of those movies. So but I know at least Apollo 13. So yeah,
we got to talk to him too.
Yeah,
we do.
You can have him on anytime. I'm sure he'd love to.
I would love to. I've tried, but
huge favor to us. We'd really appreciate that. Well, you have a company too, right?
Couple
Trick Candle. Yeah. Wow.
Well,
let's start with
Trick Candle. Yeah, that's the production company, and the key, the analogy that because people go, what's that mean? But what it is that those birthday candles where you blow out the flame and it comes back, and then you can blow it out and it comes back. So it's like a metaphor for persistence, that you can't blow out the passion, blow out the flame. And so that's
I like it a lot.
Thanks. Once I explain it to people, they go, oh, it's so cool. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing that banner for a while, and I mean, gosh, some movies I could have probably pressed harder to get my company on there, and I probably didn't early on in my career, but you know, no, so we're always looking. I mean, again, we just produced my 22nd film, and so I'm always got multiple projects going to try to push films forward, because now it's just part of my life in the process, I guess.
My goodness, 22. That's impressive.
Unreal.
That is insane.
Yeah.
What are your goals right now? I mean, you got so many things moving at once. I mean, how do you do that too?
Well, I got the two other companies I have is Filmmaking Stuff, which is an online platform, teaches filmmaking, teaches really film financing and producing, and then sales and distribution. And so we love our members there. People, it's a membership site. I mean, there's a free site too where people can go and learn all this stuff about filmmaking, but then they want to get real serious, they can sign up as a member. And so we're always putting more stuff into that, new modules, new classes, and things like that. So Filmmaking Stuff is great. But the other main thing is Glasshouse Distribution, which is a film sales company I started in 2015. And now we have like 7 people in the company. And we have 140 something films in the catalog that we licensed. And then we go to all the markets and sell them. So this year we went to Berlin, and then MIP TV had a presence. And then Cannes, we'll go in 12 days. Yeah, the 14th. So 12 days. And then Toronto, MIPCOM, AFM. So we go to all these markets and we sell to foreign buyers. So we're always signing movies. Nice. And it's a really fun business. It's really like going to trade shows and selling your stuff. So yeah. And I mean, so now I understand the distribution pipeline so much more when I make a movie, you know, which is great.
This is fascinating.
Unreal.
This is a whole business thing I never knew could even really exist. I mean, you got your team and everything, you know, so you're like supporting people. This is like you're supporting families.
You're big time.
This is a lot of responsibility.
A lot of people
right?
do rely on me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, people go, I have a company. Yeah, that's you. You know, right? That's you. But once you start having, you know, a team with families and stuff like that, it's like serious business. So
it is. Yeah. And you know, especially ones like I love, like the first 2 that Rob Deej was the first employee, and I think David was the third, and but the second is not working with us anymore. But these are all like, they're friends too. I mean, I just love them as people, and so, you know, always trying to help them out. But and I think if you have that good bond, they try to help you out too, you know. So, but you know, at the same time, it's like I used to have a rule: you can't hire a friend unless the talent exceeds the friendship, because that burned me early on, you know, just like giving friends jobs. And so in those cases, the talent at least equals the friendship. So, which is good. So, yeah.
Well, you're definitely smart. I hear so many things, you know, that you're saying. Like, that's a good example of, you know, that's almost a life lesson there. You know, that sounds like trial and error that you've gone through, and tried and true things, you know.
Oh gosh, yeah. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. I made so many, and still I make, you know, it's like there's things that you try one thing. I've always said my theory is my ant theory. I use it all the time, which is like, or I don't think about it, I just do it. And which is you know Brian Regan is great, one of the best stand-up comics there is of all time. But anyway, side note, he had a joke when he said when he was a kid, he would just watch these ants building an anthill and working hard, and then every once in a while he'd just take his hand and he'd be like, rebuild, and just knock it down. He goes, and there was never a moment where the ants were like, oh, come on, like we worked, like we've been working on it. They just went immediately and started working again. And that's me. It's like, you know, times like some project fell apart, or this guy screwed me over, this guy, and it's just, there's no moment where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sleep on the couch for 2 weeks, you know, and so like, I just immediately, all right, what's next, you know, like that. My response to that crap is to go, what else can I do now? Like, let's get another project going. Let's do other things. And like, how can I fix it and do more stuff in a different way? And so it's always the ant, you know, you just don't react. You just keep going forward and pushing. So, you know.
Yeah.
And the world shifted pretty hard lately. How did it shift you in the process? What were some big changes that had to be made?
Well, 2 things. Like I'll just say Glasshouse went up, thankfully, like right in the pandemic. Like as soon as the pandemic started, we were like, what the hell is going on? For like a month, and then suddenly people just started watching movies, and then buyers started buying more, and so that was one of our best years. Plus, we didn't have to go to physical markets because they always, you know, like Cannes is expensive.
Good point. Yeah,
Cannes, And so it was all virtual. So it was all this. Like we were taking meetings like 12, 14 a day during the virtual markets on Zoom. But it's free. You know what I mean? Like there's no cost to that. So that was one of our best revenue years that we did. But the other flip side of that is that I kind of live in a plane, man. I mean, I go right now, I have a place in New York, and I would go back to LA, and I had a place there, and back and forth maybe 20 times a year, on top of France 2-3 times a year for the festivals, Berlin, Toronto, everywhere, and then random ones that I'd go to, like Korea or something. And that ended. I mean, if I go more than 2 weeks without being on a plane, I start freaking out. Like it's so weird. And it's like, imagine that suddenly it was like a 9-month period of no flights anywhere. That was weird. That was weird for me. Like, yeah, a plane is, I feel most like, I'd say film set, I feel most at home, but plane is like the number 2 place I feel most at home. So yeah, I don't know. It just
wow, that is fascinating. I always said if I could start traveling and seeing the world, I would see how long I could go without stopping. But it sounds like you would never stop.
No,
I wouldn't. I would be on a plane every day. You know, it's like barring all the crap of delays and people coughing on your face, all that those things. I just find a lot of peace on an airplane for some reason. So.
Wow,
that is interesting. Wow. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Now, what about filming? Because are most of your films filmed in Rochester, or are they all over the place? I mean,
all over, really. I mean,
okay.
I did a film last year in Scotland. That was the first one I'd done out of the country.
Okay.
And then the other one, I think I did 3 last year. The other one was in Austin, Texas, and then another one was in Nashville. So
you did your first film out of the country ever just last year.
Just last year, yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, as far as producing,
producing, okay.
And then and this year was Nashville again. I have a filmmaker that we have kind of a partnership to do more films with in Nashville, and then the other one was in Cincinnati/Kentucky. And so that was
nice.
So it's like really everywhere. The last film I did in Rochester was 2021, and that was the first film I directed. I think it was like my 17th or 18th film produced, but it was the first film I directed, and it was a comedy, and it was fun for me because as a producer, actor, writer, I never branded myself, but as a director, I decided I'm only doing comedies. So like that was my first one. Is like I'm not looking for anything else except comedies to direct. So that's
nice.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So you've spoken to over 100,000 students as a motivational, right?
Years ago. I mean, like I probably ended that in maybe 2011 or 2012. But for that period, I did it.
Give us a quick rundown of how that started and ended.
It's funny. I saw. How did it go? We went to a thing. I had to produce this documentary. It was like this is early on my career. I think it was one of the first things I ever produced, about a bowler that had recovered, and was basically, if you've seen Kingpin, it was like almost the real story of Kingpin.
I took bowling very seriously as a kid. I was on leagues and everything. Oh yeah. Wow. I would totally love this. Yes.
This guy was probably the best of all time, but like it just ruined his life with drugs and alcohol and the mob. Like, John Gotti used to bet on his games and stuff, but like one night his sister found like 90 vials of crack that he had done, and it like lived homeless on the streets. It was this crazy story, but then like come back and won like one of the best bowling titles. Like, so he was probably the best ever, but just couldn't get his head straight. So he was speaking at this school, and I was with him, and I saw the guy that was booking these speeches, and he was looking at Bob to kind of speak. And Bob's speech was like every other speech that I grew up with, that we all grew up with in high school or grade school, where it was like the burnout who's like basically says, don't do this. And, but then doesn't really look that bad. You know what I mean? It has some success to come out of it, which I don't think is the best message. And I was never, I never a druggie or anything like that. I mean, I drink, I'm Irish because that's, it's part of it. It's part of our blood. But it's like, but the key is it was like almost like it wasn't even about anti-drugs. It was just more like a do what I did thing, And so, I just started speaking at schools, and it was more like a success in being how a powerful person, like inside confidence. And it kind of turned into like an anti-bullying thing, and yeah, that was the fun thing. So it was like a do what I did speech instead of like, don't do what I did. And the kids loved it. It was a real like comedy show type speech, like a one-man show. And I loved the more rowdy crowds. I would just go right at them. And that's a fun kind of, interesting thing, because it's like, say you go to a comedy club, you're doing your comedy act, everybody's there like, make me laugh. And these kids in the audience are like, you know, like that's how it starts, you know.
Sure.
And so when you can win that crowd, you got something, you know. So that was awesome.
Oh, you're right. That
Unreal.
is seriously cool. And so, what are some of your favorite like films and TV shows? I mean, what made you do all this? What do you think did all this to you? Why all this?
Wow, that's a good one. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, I just loved making people laugh and just having fun and just expressing myself. I suppose that was a thing early on, you know, and didn't lack the confidence to do it. Like when I said I brought up Peter Pan in 4th grade. I also did something. I used to speak because my mom was very religious, and I'm not now, but I was. You know,
Same here.
My mom was a kid, and I used to speak at churches. I used to speak at churches because somewhere I read or somebody told me that was a great place to speak in front of crowds. So I'd read like the readings.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know, and I would nail it. And it was like, to me, that was never scary for me. You know, it was like it was more like a challenge, and so that was why I did that. But you're talking about, I mean, there was kind of a multi-part question. I don't know if you want to know the shows that I watch or anything like that. That was the first part of the question. Was that, did I answer, or do you want me to say?
Sort of. I mean, were you like one of those sci-fi kids, or comedy or adventure? What did you like? Yeah,
I did love it all. I had a special kind of love for the Oscar movies. I used to be able to I mean, I still probably can, at least prior to 2000. You name the year and I'll tell you what won Best Picture. Like I saw them all. I used to be able to do the whole list, and I was just really into those films, you know, like the On the Waterfronts and Best Years of Our Lives and like the old movies like that. And so that was a big thing for me, watching those old films and getting respect for movies that way. You know, that was huge. So
interesting. Why is that? You just had that much respect for the industry itself. You figure these are the best movies. I want to watch them and figure out why.
Yeah, these are great questions that I may never have asked myself. You know, my parents were Cinebuffs or whatever you call it. Like they were into movies like that.
My dad was, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a thing, I guess. And then, you know, but then you start watching these movies and you go, wow, these are great. And then you see, like I'd always try to catch movies, even if I saw them, I'd try to catch them in screenings just to kind of like, for the respect of the movie, see them in a theater. Like I remember saw All About Eve in the theaters in New York City, like it was playing, and I'm like, but I'd already seen it, but it's like in the theater, it was like, God damn it. And I've seen Casablanca in the theaters maybe 6 times, like, you know, so I'll always try to look for something like that. But yeah, I mean, it just makes it just so much more exciting. There's something about that, you know, when the lights go down and that magic that happens. And now it's like I watch all kinds of stuff. There's really some good stuff on TV, and there's some great shows, Succession, and you know, and things like that are great shows. But I'm also a huge anime fan, if you can believe it. It's like I initially started because my son was into it, and now he's 16, and it seems like he's not as into it anymore. But he got me into it, and now like I watch anime all the time.
That exact same thing happened to me with this show called My Hero Academia, right, Mark?
I watched the whole My Hero.
Yeah,
he was younger.
Go one.
Yeah,
I'm like, come on, we gotta go to the movie and get with you. He's like, all right. Now he's getting a little older and fading away from it. I'm like, no, watch this with me.
You gotta watch it. Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it was My Hero is for a little bit younger. It was One Piece, which is like that's the one that, you know, it's so good. It's so awesome. It's a 1,000-episode manga. You know, and it's such strong IP that Netflix is making live action, and they're spending $12 million an episode for it. Wow. It's like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Oh my, I'm palpitating. Wow. That is amazing to hear. That is going to be so much fun.
I hope they don't screw it up. I really don't. I mean, because that show is like the best, you know. But I mean, there's shows like Attack on Titan and things like that are so good that it's like, I mean, I saw an article that was comparing how much better Attack on Titan was than Game of Thrones. And it's like, yeah, I agree. Like it was on a different level, but you know.
Wow, I'm gonna have to check that out. Wow, that is great.
It's a super violent one and very serious. I just got like, especially if your kid is like younger and like, it's My Hero Academia is like a fun one. Like, yeah, I wouldn't watch that with your kid if he's younger.
Well, he's a teen, so maybe we can let it go. We can watch it. You know,
good.
That is awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to ask. How did you come up with some of your ideas for these films? Because you're choosing topics that are trending, movies that look at something like Screamers. And by the way, if we don't get 1 billion hits on YouTube on this podcast episode, I'd be shocked.
Awesome, man. It's like Screamers was so fun. And, I just told this story about this the other day. And because I was talking about being open to like signs almost, or the energy of the universe. And the fun, quick story behind Screamers was that I was taking my daughter, she was only like 12 at the time, to a haunted hayride. She might have even been like 10 or 11. She always loved scary and roller coasters, all that stuff. And she was like the kind of baby that you go boo, and she'd go and then go like, she just loved it. She loved being, you love that feeling. And so we were taking it. And so I maybe had drama and a thriller and something in development, trying to get these movies going. And we're waiting in line for the haunted hayride, and some guy comes up with a chainsaw with no chain, and scares the person, and they scream and then they laugh. And I had this like gust of energy come over me. And I remembered when we did Alphabet Killer and how great the fans were. And I just loved being in that horror world, and the film festivals were so fun. And I went on Facebook and I just typed I just decided right now, make another horror movie. Who's in? And, and whatever, I'd say I get, normally 200 likes on a thing. It was like 600 likes and, 400 comments. It was way more than I ever get. And that was October 15th, let's just say. It was mid-October. By November 6th or 7th, I got the financing at AFM, and we were shooting by February. Now, mind you, when I did that post, I didn't even have an idea. Didn't even have an idea for a movie. I just felt the energy, and I was like, something's telling me to make a horror movie. Called my buddy Dean Ronalds, a great director friend who ended up directing it, and we just we spitballed an idea and just pushed it forward, and then the finance was just there, and then we were shooting in February, and I love that movie. I mean, like, I don't think it got the support it should have. There was a couple critics. One critic was like, the headline was "Screamers needs to be seen immediately." Like literally, he thought it was the greatest. And so we had a couple of people tell us the best found footage movie they ever seen. We wanted to take found footage to a whole new level. And but I think if like Lionsgate or somebody had put it out to 3,000 theaters, it would have been a monster hit. But it just wasn't. Maybe it didn't get the distribution that it should have. Let's say that. So,
how does all the streaming stuff affect all your distribution now? All these streaming platforms and stuff. I mean, it's a far broader spectrum for you to play around in, isn't it?
It is, and it's tough. It's like nobody quite knows all the answers, but, having a distribution company helps. We start to learn who the players are and who's strong and this and that. And, I did that movie that I did in Nashville last year. It has done very well, and it's on SVOD. I mean, it's on TVOD right now, but we have a big, I can't even say the deal, have a big deal on one of the major SVODs is coming up, and they'll be playing it in August. And so, I mean, those are all connections. Like, actually, even Screamers, if I had the distribution company when I did Screamers, I would have been able to sell it much more, and do very well with it. I mean, just knowing that aspect of the business makes you more powerful as a filmmaker.
So like, you've been building all these things up as you go, and now you're at the point where it looks like you're poised to do something really big. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I got a big script with a huge producer that's had 2 Oscar nominated films that are huge, and so we we're trying to push that forward. And so as long as I can get that going, that'll be a big movie. So let's see.
That is awesome. I was going to say, what is the one subject you love to make a film that you have yet to do? Like,
these are good questions.
Yeah. Like,
well,
I mean, it sounds like with
you
22 things under your belt, you've probably gone a little bit everywhere, but
yeah. Well, and then some of those were opportunistic, like meaning they just came across my desk and it was like, oh, this is perfect timing and all that stuff. But I'd say that the thing that I really want to do is make an action movie. That studio movie that I'm talking about that I'm trying to get going is an action film, and I want to make an action film. I want to do that and see if we can do that well. I'd also like to make another comedy as a director. I have that script that's just like laugh out loud funny, and so I just got to try to get that financed. But really, I think an action would be fun. I guess the thing is not even this. It's a bigger studio movie. Like, I have played in the sandbox of all different budgets, from $50,000 little movies to $8 million. Like, that's about the range that I've gone in, and I just know that I have the tools and the talents to be in that $100 million range. Just gotta get a couple things to fall into place. And so, again, that's something where I look at people that I know. Chris McQuarrie was a friend of the family for years, and now he's directing the monster, the Mission Impossible franchise. And it's like, I look and I'm like, I can do that. Like, there's nothing about that intimidates me at all. And it's just getting the right opportunity at the right time. I'll be right there. So
wow, that's
so
pretty
with
impressive.
all your talents, what would be your keys to success, Tom?
Well, being the kind of persistence is the key. This right here is my key to success. This is the my to-do list. Every day I'm a freak about the to-do list. To the point where the joke is, I used to do these like one-page things on a clipboard every day, do to-do list, and you get big stacks of paper, and I'd put them away in the file cabinets, and it was just taking up so much space. And then Staples made this like to-do list book, and I used to buy them at Staples, and then they went out of print. And so I'm like, God, I searched everywhere and tried to get them in China and all that. And so then I'm like, well, I have filmmaking stuff. Why don't I just make my own and sell them? And so now it's this to-do list journal for filmmakers, and it's the Filmmakers, the brand. So now I sell them. But it's like, the joke is, I sell them, but I made it only for me. Like, if I was their number one, and I am their number one customer, but if it's like, if I was your only customer, I wouldn't care. I could care less, because it was like, I use this every day, and I try to focus everything every day. So it's just, I try to work harder than the next guy. The Alexander Karelin, the best wrestler of all time, not professional wrestler, actual Greco-Roman wrestling, says I like to work every day, that because they asked him why he was so good, and he says, I work every day like everybody, that no one else has even worked one day in their life. And so I try to do that. We'll see.
I love your outlook, dude. That is so cool. I like that you write things down. I still have a pencil and paper, and I make lists like that when I know my phone is right there. I just still can't make myself. I need to write it. It's so weird.
It's so visceral. I never have typed a screenplay like from scratch. It's always on paper first, and then I type it after it's on paper. I just can't do it. It's like a visceral.
I could tell Siri to just add it, but I still want to go write it down. It's real weird. And I like how you have these, I've never understood really comedies. I admire anyone who even attempts comedy. I haven't figured out what the heck funny is at all. I don't know why I laugh and when, but adventure movies, that would be something I'd be like, really, would be weird though. If I was headed into that, would you be like the guy to be using guys on with parachutes and stuff, or more like a CGI sort of adventure movie where you're pushing the edges of the imagination where you can't film it?
I'd have to say I'd probably be the person that wants the choreography. Like, to me, like, if you ask, Tom, best action movies, I'd be like The Raid and The Raid Redemption. Like, that's what I'd go for more than like Avatar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like choreography. I like awesome, just insane fight scenes and stuff like that. Like The Killer.
I think you like going, we really actually did that.
Yeah, exactly.
You jumped with the camera.
Oh yeah, you watch like Hard Boiled or The Killer, and it's like there was no fake glass. They were legit throwing people through glass in that movie, and it's like, that's crazy.
You're probably a lot of fun to make movies with. I can see you pushing the envelope here and there.
Yeah,
really having a great time overall. That's awesome. That's awesome. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah. How do you think the film industry has changed since you started?
Oh yeah, that's a bigger thing. The key is nobody's buying DVDs obviously anymore, and that's a huge problem, because that was an actual physical product that you could pack and ship. So you used to be able to make more off of less. It's like if you made 2 movies back in like 2000, like you were like mid 6-figure guy. You know what I mean? Like, and now it's like that was because an indie film was made for $2 or $3 million, right? And so now an indie film is made for 250,000 or 500,000. It's like, so it's the salaries aren't what they used to be. So that's why you have to have your hand in more projects and be doing more things. It's tough. I was just talking to a producer friend of mine who had slaved to kind of sell this movie to Netflix, and he had other partners, and he slaved for like 3 years to do it. He made $50,000 on it. And it was like 50. Imagine if that was his only thing for 3 years. like the McDonald's employee is doing 10x better than you. You know what I mean? It's like, so you know, you really have to have a passion for it. I wish it was back in those days. And I know I have friends that made the C-list Christian Slater movies, you know, and they'd make them for, this is back in like 90s, and they'd make them for $3 million and they'd sell them for $7 million, you know, and they made $100 million doing that. You can't do that these days. You know, those people were idiots, and they can make money, and it's like, you can't do it these days. So, you know.
Wow, that's huge what you just said right there. No one really realized that, I don't think, you know. It's really just, and there's so much media now.
Oh, that's it. I mean, the technology has allowed for like a floodgate of shit almost, you know what I mean? And it also has allowed for some successes, but it also, like when I started, you had to get a 60 millimeter camera minimum, you know, or if you had the 35, you had to have a whole crew of people around a 35 millimeter film and everything. And so that was almost like a gateway. But now you can get the same quality at Best Buy, you know what I mean? And then you buy a camera for $4,000, it's like, yeah, you're going to get that look. So that allows people to do things like this. And David Josh Lawrence, who works for me as my head of acquisitions, he just said a phrase to me that he said, what does he call it? Quality blindness. And I'm like, God, that's so true. Like, and so it's like these people, like we get trailers submitted that like, we'll be like, oh no, like this is so bad. Like they can't see that. Like they can't see. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how to define it. You know, it's like when I see a movie poster that somebody's designed on their Microsoft Word or something like that, and you've seen them and they look like horrible. And it's like, you go, you can't see this? Like they can't, you know, they didn't look and compare it to another movie poster. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know where that quality blindness ends for some people. I don't know, or begins, I suppose.
Well, at least there's still that. You can't just, you know, the raw talent prevails, and hopefully it always does. Yeah, I mean, you have so many talents at ballroom dancing, right?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Please do tell.
Oh, well, I just got into that in the, you know, around the in 2000 or so, and did it for a while and just enjoyed it. It was like, you know, the key was it was a way you met girls so easily there. You know, I joked I used to, you know, I did jiu-jitsu for a long time, and that's probably, you see that too. Still do it on and off. It's just I'm older now and I get hurt a lot. But you know, I remember going with my buddy Jason Chambers, who was he used to be the host of Human Weapon on the History Channel, and we went to like a Strike Force event. Amazing seats, like sat right up front. I remember Bill Goldberg was like 3 seats behind us. It was like, you know, like that's how good our seats were. And Nick Diaz main event, and I said to him afterwards, I'm like, dude, you know, here's the only thing about this. Great to see it. I'm like, but there's like 2,000 guys here, and there's like 200 women, and like the 200 women are dating the guys. And I'm like, you go to a dance event, there's like 2,000 girls. I go, there's about 1,000 guys and 900 are gay. So like, where do you think the better odds are of like meeting women that are beautiful? I'm like, you think maybe you would want to go? And so I talked to him. This thing, yeah. So, better odds. Yeah.
Oh, that is excellent. That's another thing. I would love to learn how to dance, but I would have to just be like start at zero, like less than zero. I was just, you know, I would have to be trained so highly.
If you've done anything, it's just muscle memory. If you've done anything else like skateboarding or surfing or martial arts, I tell them you can do it, because it's just memorizing movements and just memorizing movements, and then sooner or later it just clicks, and then it's like, oh, I look good out there. You know what I mean? And some girls like it, or some guys like, you know, dude, you're awesome, and that's it. So yeah.
I've done performing, but I've always admired that, man. That'd be cool. Even ballroom dancing, you know, I think that's really cool too. Something that'll never die too, like certain kinds of things, you know, like that and swing. We've been talking.
Well, I mean, you know, I took my love of West Coast swing. Yeah. Well, I took my love of West Coast swing, and I did Love and Dancing first. That was the one with Amy Smart, Billy Zane, and myself, and directed by Rob Iscove, who did She's All That. And then, but, you know, ultimately that was his movie, not mine, even though I'd come up with the idea, like, you know, he was the director. And so when I made Ask Me to Dance, the first movie I directed was a dance film, romantic comedy. And it was like, that was exactly my vision, the kind of movie I wanted to make. And it was fun. It was, I mean, super fun. We were getting some great reviews here and there. And, you know, I think 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, which that movie was kind of like my Pretty Woman. And I think Pretty Woman's only like 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes, which I'm like, yes. But it's also like my Love Actually. I love the movie Love Actually. Like I have a lot of movies where I had ideas of movies that I loved, and then I did my version of them. Like I love Silence of the Lambs, and Alphabet Killer was like my Silence of the Lambs, you know. So you try to make those your versions of each movie. So, you know, there it was.
That is a good way of heading into a project. Yeah, I kind of want to get that feeling, that feel or whatever. Yeah.
Well, yeah, whatever favorite movie you have, you go, all right, let me make my version.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Well, so I already kind of asked you what your upcoming projects are. I know you can't tell me too much. We have some viewers and they are interested in these things. Where can they see you? Where can they see your stuff? What do you want to share?
Oh, well, great. I mean, you can always go, if you're a filmmaker that's watching, you can always go to filmmakingstuff.com, which is a great, you know, again, we have the YouTube channel, and but we have also the membership site, and we give away so much information about movie making, so that's fun. But
that's a first, right, Mark? I mean, literally a school, online school about making movies. That is trailblazing stuff, guys.
Oh, it's all, yeah. I mean, like the business plan that we give on the website, but it's called Movie Plan Pro, is like the most popular one. It's film business plan on the internet, which is really cool because I created that business plan like 15, 18 years ago. And it's like somebody will come pitch me a project. And as I'm flipping through it, I'm like, is this Movie Plan Pro? And I'm like, yes. Like, it's just so fun to see that. So that's cool. But, you know, if you want, I mean, you mentioned Ask Me to Dance. So that's the movie I'll put out there as, please go check it out. And it's really fun and sweet. And we just tried to make a lot of people laugh. And there's people that tell me it's just super laugh out loud funny. And one reviewer, it's funny, I mentioned movies that I like. One reviewer said the funniest and sweetest movie since Love Actually, which I'm like, yes, like that's exactly. I used to teach ballroom dancing. I don't anymore, but I still love to go out dancing.
I have borderline personality disorder. I'm also bipolar.
You like to dance?
No.
How long you been dancing?
My whole life.
It shows.
Thank you. You don't think I'm too old for you?
Nope, you're just my type. So we gonna close this tonight, or?
Hi. I was hoping to meet the guy that danced earlier. He was amazing.
You literally just missed him.
The year almost ends.
It went so fast.
You're going to meet the love of your life.
I am?
Yes, by midnight on New Year's Eve.
Is that so?
Did you have fun last night?
I met this old woman who told me that I was going to meet the love of my life before the end of the year. 4 days left after tonight, the exact day of your wedding and the last night of the year.
Some old lady said this?
Yes.
It's so random.
Well, I went through a divorce, and only now I'm ready to start dating again.
I am finally putting you on a dating app.
No.
I just want somebody to dance with. No complications, no commitments. And you need to meet my friend Jill. She's going through the same thing.
She'll be at the wedding.
Yeah, she's the maid of honor.
I've been dying to see this movie. Some sex after this, right?
I want to meet the love of my life, and this week has assured me that that is never going to happen.
I mean, I did stab my last boyfriend.
I give up.
You gotta settle.
I am not going to settle.
Hey, listen, I have a girl here that wants to meet you.
Look, Jack, say the girl that saw you dance that night is your soulmate. That would mean you're destined to bump into her again.
Actually, which I'm like, yes, like that's exactly what was in my head, and that was such a cool feeling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like my dad that made that review.
Yeah, classic.
Well, I love your energy, man. You just
So do
got
I.
such a powerful outlook on everything, of confidence and just joy.
Thanks.
You know, you have just a beautiful, positive outlook on everything, and you're, you know, just keep trying kind of a guy, and don't get discouraged, and everybody's going to trip and fall. And, you know, I see the humbleness of you too. That really makes you, you know, really, really cool guy in my mind.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, you know, it's like the key is, I think you got to just learn to love your grind, you know, and if it's, I mean, obviously it's easier if you're making money, but it's like, you know, the key is if you love that enough, it's not really working. Like I can't, the one thing I don't do that people know, it's like, I don't take a vacation. Like I can't imagine just like, oh, it's going in some place, like unless there was an idea of like, we might shoot a movie here or something, like there has to be an answer, right? Like I'm not going anywhere. I refuse. Like there, you know, people, oh man, I'm in Colombia, come down and visit. And I'm thinking, well, if you were a financier, I would, but like, I just never just do it. I that to me would just stress me out, because it's like, I love working and love doing all this stuff. And, you know, I saw a fun meme that was like, if you think you're depressed and you're happier when you go on vacation, you're not depressed. You just have a shitty life. And it's so true.
So true.
And it's like, so you just need to do something. The key is do something about it. Start working with what you enjoy. Hopefully things will get better. So
and guys, if you want to do something about it, especially if it's movie making, Tom knows what to do. He's going to show you how to do it. Look at his program, look at his stuff. This guy's obviously knows exactly what's going on and how to do it. Everybody, we're going to have all his links down below for you. Tom, whatever you want to share with us, we're going to give it out to everybody. And it's just been a real treat tonight talking to you. I really appreciate your time.
Fantastic. And like I said, if there's other people that in my circle like Gabe Jarret, sure, let me know. I'll pass it on, and I'm sure
we would love to have him on. I've actually reached out to his contacts on IMDb Pro a couple times, but nothing.
I'll text him. I'll tell him it's a good one, or I'll send him forward an email or something. So
And like I said to Kathy, I don't know if I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. Used to be a filming hotspot, but if you ever want to film down here, Wilmington.
Well, it's funny. I have two friends down there, but one of them is my buddy that I just saw, Paolo Benedetti. He was like an actor on Guiding Light for years, and he's trying to produce some stuff. And him, and I guess I could say his name, Bob Orsi, who is the producer and writer of all the Star Trek movies, went to dinner on Saturday. And it was awesome. That was very cool. Very nice guy. And
I'd be all starstruck around that person.
He was a cool dude. And Paolo and him have been friends for a long time, but Paolo's always telling me come to North Carolina and do something. And I think he's in Winston-Salem. I think. Yeah,
they are building a new someplace, Greensboro, one of those. New studio.
Not Bob. I mean Paolo, and though he was a soap actor for years, I don't think he's doing as much acting. I mean, he's always trying to get projects going, but I think he's selling real estate and stuff like that. So
well, it's got like a big filming community. So
and I mean, in Asheville is a really cool city. I had a friend down there, and
there's a lot in there.
Yeah, man, super cool. So
that's awesome. Well, I feel like we make a friend today. We made a friend, I feel like, and so I want you to know we're always going to be here in case you want to promote something or talk about something. We always got an hour for you, bro. So you should come on back, whenever you want, and we'll talk. I just like talking to you. You're just one of those people I can just talk to all night. Yeah.
Same here.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, bro.
Thanks
again for coming on.
Awesome.
Take care.
Take care. All right.